special edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast, of course. A massive win by the club. There's lots to talk about, lots to celebrate, lots to get around. It's very exciting. Why don't we get right into it? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a what should be a very fun edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast. Without any further ado, Nicky and Macca, how you going?
Well, I'm still firing at about 3 cylinders, but we're still here, mate. So we'll do well.
Very good.
and my voice, hopefully it lasts.
Right, so we're all a bit under the weather because I've had an ear infection all week. People watching on YouTube will notice that I've reverted back to the headphones instead of the bloody earbuds because the earbuds gave me a freaking ear infection.
So we could really be called, be fair enough to call us the Camry cripples today, I suppose.
Oh my God. I missed just about a week of work. It was ridiculous. I couldn't. Oh, it was terrible. So a warning to everybody that earbuds are not a good thing. Oh, shit. How was our weekend, guys? Obviously pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was good, wasn't it? And highlighted, of course, by the Crows win at beautiful sunshine. So when you're not feeling too good, like myself, it's very nice to sit out there for a few minutes. Lovely.
And
All
Nick,
I'll say is I did, and it was actually my parents' anniversary, and they very much appreciated the present that the Adelaide Football Club got them.
Yeah, I'll bet. That was a fantastic gift. Look, g'day to everyone who's joined us on Discord and YouTube and maybe even Twitch, I'm not sure. It's great to have you all along. Don't forget, if you are watching us on demand, hit us up with a like or a subscribe on YouTube, or give us a review on iTunes, and just basically get around us. Get around the Discord chat too. If you aren't already a member of our Discord community, the invite code is in the description, and also if you don't know what Discord is, just get onto the Crowcast YouTube channel, and there's a nice little instruction video there. Nicky, lots of people already in the audience. Of course, we do our live interaction on Sunday nights as well as Tuesday nights, and I'm sure there'll be a few people on the chat who will be ready to give us their opinion. What do you reckon?
I think they're going to be fairly happy opinions for the most part, except for 3 particular people in green.
Yeah, well...
Or yellow, or whatever that colour is.
Whatever they were. I can't...
Just maggots. Maggots should do.
I don't know what they were. Anyway, look, let's get around Macca's scores, shall we, Macca? And I'll just put the right bloody screen up, because that's a bit ridiculous. Right, there we go. That's better. Macca.
Yes, sir.
Oh, come on. There we are. There's your intro. Macca's beloved weekend results wrap up. Don't blame me. You asked for it.
Nice.
I love it.
Friday nights we had the Lions just continuing their dominance over the Tigers at the Gabba, at least. 15-12, 102 to 11-8, 74. A margin there of 28 points to the Lions.
Yeah, a little bit hard to guess where things are at really there in that game. I mean, Brisbane were too good in the second half, but when you look at the midfielders that were missing for Richmond, when you're talking about Bolton and Cochrane and Edwards and Prestia, not too many sides could afford to have those guys out and do reasonably well. So as I say, very hard to judge where Richmond will be at the end of the year. But they don't have those guys at the moment, and that's going to cost them in terms of their position. So they'd be very unlikely to be top four, so they'll have to do it the hard way if they are going to do it. As for Brisbane, well, they did what they had to do. McLuggage is turning into a star, in my opinion. Lions, the guy we got rid of, he was brilliant. Yep. And Zorko, and they're doing very well without Lachie Neale. But geez, Lions, I nearly cry every time I see him play.
Well, the consolation is that we got Benny Keys not out of that deal, but we kind of ended up with Brisbane's Benny Keys, and I actually think Ben's given us more value than Jared, even though I rate Jared and have done for ages. So, I think we'll take the 0-0 draw there, don't you think?
Okay.
All right, the next one is Carlton, 13-8-86, getting up by 23 points over the Hawks, 9-9-63. I didn't see this game, so I don't know what to say about it, really.
Well, not much really to say. It was a very low standard game. Carlton made every error in the book, but they were still far too good for Hawthorn. Walsh was the classy player on the ground.
Yeah,
and there weren't too many others worth giving a mention. Mitchell racked up 44 disposals for Hawthorn, but they don't always go to a teammate. But apart from that, I thought, pretty ordinary game. Carlton are going to end up middle of the road in the bottom 8.
As usual.
So they're going nowhere after all these promises and bringing new players, etc.
Yep.
And Hawthorn, they'll definitely finish bottom 4. And we talked about it last week. They really have to start again and rebuild.
Yes, they do. All right. The Cats, 13-8-86, making quite easy work of the Suns, really. 8-9-57, a margin there of 34 points to the Cats.
Yeah, far too classy. Too many good players for the Gold Coast. Although the Gold Coast, to me, that they're a side. They've got some quality players in there, and the quality mostly youngsters, but they've now got 2 or 3 years behind them. But they don't have a lot of heart in that particular team, in my opinion. I don't know why, but they just don't. And we've spoken about that before. Duncan was tackled and concussed. I thought in legitimate tackle, but I see that in the chat there they were saying that the tackler got 2 matches, which really amazes me. And poor old Guthrie, who was in my dream team and burning it at half time, he got banged on his shoulder and he's got hurt, but I don't know whether that's going to keep him out or not. But they've got a pretty easy one next week anyhow, so they'll probably be okay.
Probably. Who we got next? And I'm whizzing through these because who really gives a shit today. The Bulldogs absolutely destroying St Kilda. St Kilda are nowhere. 21-18, 144. The Dogs by 111 points, if you don't mind, and shooting to the top of the table. St Kilda 5-3, 33. Goodness me, St Kilda.
Well, it was a pleasure actually to watch an awesome midfield at work. Bontempelli was at his very, very best.
Yes, very good.
McRae, he was terrific. You got Smith there as well. You got Liberatore, and Norton is developing into a really good full forward. Takes some really good hangers. Yeah. I really like watching the Dogs. I hate their coach, but I like watching the team. And on the other hand, you got the Saints, and they've done the same thing. They've been recruiting players from other clubs now for the last 2 years, and abject failures. And they're going to end up middle of the road. They're not going to make the 8, and I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I agree, Mac. And again, it's one of these situations where a club just overrates their list a little bit. St Kilda went for the mature age recruits, and they got Bruce in, and they got they lost Bruce, didn't they? They got Crouch in, I should say, and they're not anywhere near it. They're not even close at the moment. Not even close.
No, Bratton he might be getting a little bit nervous. It could be a little bit of swappies with the coaches at the end of the year, I reckon.
Yeah, I think they'll give him a bit more of a run. over in the west, that was in the west, wasn't it? Freo Sydney. Freo 12-14-86 by 2 points over Sydney, 13-6-84.
Yep, only saw the last quarter of that game, but the lead was oscillated backwards and forward during that quarter. Franklin was looking more like Lance Franklin of old, and he was very, very dangerous up forward whenever he got an opportunity. And the irony that the winning goal was kicked by Fife, who cannot kick over a jam jar if he's about 15 metres out in front. I think he's 2 goals 19 or something like that. Yeah. He has slammed the ball onto his boot and it's turned into sort of a screw from an acute angle and gone straight through
and
the
it
middle.
Just skidded through. Yeah.
It skidded through. They win the game by 2 points.
Still 4 minutes to go at that point, you know.
I know, but goals are so hard to get to. And, and it just kept really for Fife to kick that one after the ones he's been missing. But anyhow, the game could have gone either way. And again, it won't help Freo get into the 8. It could cost Swans being in the 8 in the long run.
Well, yeah, that's the Giants. Speaking of that, the Giants did sneak into the 8 with a 13-15-93 to 11-11-77 victory over the West Coast, 16 points there, and just sneaking into the 8 at the moment at the expense of Richmond.
Yeah, well, look, this is the second best midfield in the competition, and with Josh Kelly, you've got Taranto, you've got Tom Green, you've got Hopper, you've got Whitfield, and they were all starring again today. And really, they West Coast. Actually, I'm really angry with myself because I did tip West Coast.
You can't tip them away. Can't tip them away.
No, I know, and you're so right, and I was so stupid. Nat Nui was good, Tim Kelly was good, but not too many others, and they were the usual West Coast on the road, and GWS are just building up some momentum at the moment. So I think they will play finals.
You know what happens with West Coast? I reckon I've worked it out. I've watched a few of their away games recently, and it's their bottom 10 players that go missing in away games. They still get good performances out of their stars usually, but it's their bottom 10 players that don't travel well, and it's left to too few, in my opinion.
Good call. Very good call, Pete.
Today, I thought it was just going to top off the weekend nicely, but unfortunately...
Nearly did.
Oh, my God, that would have just been perfect, wouldn't it? Collingwood going down by a point to the pair, 8-10-58, 8-11-59. Grundy a little bit unlucky to not get a push in the back towards the end there, but never mind. The Power just keep limping along at the moment.
Yeah, I was so disappointed. And we were so close to getting the double, mate. Just so close. And you're quite right about the Grundy call. I mean, they're squealing about 1-3 in our game when they were about 50 against us that went the wrong way. Yeah. But this particular one against Grundy was a dead set push at the back. And the guy's just fallen right on him. And that could have cost Collingwood the game. Although Collingwood know how to do that themselves. They had so much more of the ball, they had so much of this, so much of that, and yet they still managed to blow it. Because one of the things they do, Fiend, which is something you've always been very critical of our team for, they love to do that kick to about centre half forward where it goes to bloody nobody. And then, of course, do the rebound, and it's all a waste of time. And they've probably done about six short passes to do that last kick.
Yes, that's right. They do mess around a bit.
And it's not a winning team, not a winning factor to do that. So, I thought that Collingwood were the better team. If you took at the whole 4 quarters, Port were the better team in the last quarter when it counted, unfortunately.
Agreed. Whoops, I don't know what that is.
And that's it. That's that.
Hang on, something's going on.
One more to go.
No, there was 2 to 3 contentious calls that were free kicks. But
where's that coming from?
Let's not go there. Let's not say poor me. It was a fantastic.
No. We'll say.
We'll just mute that for now. God. What's the next one? Essendon just destroying North Melbourne, 22-9, 149 to 10-9, 69. That's 12 goals in my book.
Yeah, you can sum that up in about 2 lines. I started watching it and see what was going to happen, and I went to back to television and watched some documentary instead. That's how interested I was in that game. It was just going to be it was going to be what it turned out to be, an absolute thrashing of a team that didn't seem to be trying overly hard.
No, I agree. What the hell's going on at North? I mean, David Noble, what's he stepped into, for goodness sakes? You know, they had that stirring victory last week. Whoops, what's going on there? They had that stirring victory last week. And
that might be their grand final team.
Could be. I wish I could get my shit together. There we go. It could have been. But how do you back up from a stirring victory like that with a 12-goal loss to a team that really isn't all that much better than you?
Well, I will say this, though. I think Essendon have got some players that have got futures in them. And, well, North Melbourne, they're playing some youngsters, but they also got a lot of guys who haven't got much future in them. So they got a long way to go, North Melbourne. Long way.
Yeah, I think Kempy hit it on the head there. Not enough speed in the North Melbourne team.
No,
not enough speed. And certainly not enough to keep up with Essendon. So let's have a look at the table, which sees Western Bulldogs take over on top with a better percentage after their destruction of St Kilda. Melbourne also on 36 points, and then we have three teams on 28, Geelong, Brisbane and Port. Port on a percentage of 119. Sydney Swans and West Coast on 24 points, and GWS in the 8 on 20 points, just 0.7 ahead of Richmond outside of the 8, along with Fremantle on 20 points. Essendon, Carlton and the mighty Adelaide Crows on 16 points, along with St Kilda. I'll tell you what, there's some strange trajectories amongst those teams, isn't there? You got St Kilda on 16 points with a sinker on their foot. You've got Carlton just treading water, and you've got the Crows and Essendon probably showing a few signs, haven't you? So quite interesting there. The Suns on 12 points, Collingwood and Hawthorn on 8, and North on 4 solitary bloody points. Jason Horn. So, yeah, there you go, guys. Interesting round, some really close matches. Quite coincidental that both Adelaide teams won by a point on the weekend. That's something you wouldn't think would happen too often. I wouldn't have thought.
And also both with potentially controversial decisions right at the end that could have cost them the game.
Yes. Now, speaking of controversy, let's now, a lot of people would have already seen this because it went a bit nuts on YouTube this afternoon. But for those who haven't, why don't we just revel a little bit more? Whoops, not that one. In the mighty tears that flowed after the game, shall we? Well, not that one. Come on. What are you doing to me? Hang on a minute. Let's see if I can find it. That's a bit of a fail, isn't it? There we go.
No, there was 2-3 contentious calls that were clearly free kicks, but let's not go there. Let's not say poor me. It was a fantastic.
No. We'll say.
Handballs to Sloane. 1:30 on the clock now. Keys running the wrong way. Running into Petty. Running into walls everywhere. Again. Lever dropped it. Still vulnerable.
How was this one? How wasn't this called holding the ball? Come on. Oh my God.
Didn't you also miss the one where there was the Melbourne player that was on the ground
Oh yeah,
that actually went for longer.
I could have gone on and on and on, but that one was so similar and it involved the same two players. It was quite uncanny.
Yeah.
But Melbourne fans at home will be screaming still about that deliberate out of bounds non-call, and for me it was deliberate, completely deliberate, and it should have been called that from the umps. But
All right, Brad.
Murray, he goes towards the line. What's the call?
Have a listen to the reaction. Fantastic. Oh, sorry, fellas. Touched on the way through.
Ring the bell! Ring the bell! The bell in the city of churches!
Don't you just love it? Don't you just love it? And people have gotten around that, Macca and Nick. I didn't notice, but that's got like 108 fucking likes.
You got a hit.
That's fantastic.
Well done. No, well done, Pete.
Oh, but I mean, before we get into talking about the actual game, how salty were those Victorian commentators? Even like you had Gary Lyon, who was trying to be impartial, Anthony Hudson, who does a reasonable job of being impartial, and Jason Dunstall, who seems to flip-flop all over the place. You know, the one against Keys is called, you know, I can't see how that couldn't be a free, and yet the previous quarter, they're all just shrugging it off. I mean, it was just so salty. And even Kane Corns this morning, who I didn't notice that video until afterwards, otherwise I would have shoved him in there as well, but just refusing to give Adelaide any credit on his little AFL segment with Mitch Cleary this morning. It's palpable, the hatred, isn't it? It's palpable.
Yeah, look, that's not being a media man or being a reporter. That's just being a little weasel who hates us. That's all.
Yeah. PJ in the chat said that, yeah, Dunstall after the game was massive in his praise. I get that, but the reactions in the moment belied where their true allegiances were. And Dunstall is a fairly good operator. I don't mind his commentary. He's usually fairly even, but the reactions when Murray didn't get called for deliberate, they were straight from the gut from those three, all three of them.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
what is so
There was no hiding
so
from that.
Just on that, what is so hilarious for that is it's not deliberate, because deliberate no longer exists. There is no rule
insufficient
about that.
intent.
Yes, it's insufficient or insufficient care.
Yeah.
And there were the two earlier ones, which Seasman's came off the side of the boot, and the other one from the Melbourne player as well, where he towed it just a bit too quick and it went out. They paid both of them. Whereas last week I actually saw that an umpire go, that was a genuine skill error, and he didn't pay it.
Yeah.
Which is what I would like them to do, but they don't know the game well enough. They don't know football to actually judge and call that.
The simple fact was that
and the other
Spargo
one,
deflected the ball from Murray. That's the bottom line. Spargo deflected the ball. He didn't actually question. You would expect someone in Spargo's position on the ground at that stage of the game to turn around and remonstrate with the umpire. He didn't blink. He did not blink, Spargo. He just went and got into position for the throw-in. That's got to tell you that he knew that he'd deflected it. It's clear as day from that angle. I'm so glad they found that angle that showed that the ball deflected. Murray was clearly trying to put the ball to grass in front of Duday. It deflected. It went out of bounds. We hung on for another 30 seconds or so.
Brilliantly.
Gawn could have gone holding the ball during that time. Suck shit, Melbourne. Suck shit, Melbourne media. Suck shit, Kane Corns. Eat a bag of dicks. The whole lot of you.
I think you're being too kind. You could have said worse.
Oh, look.
Anyhow, I think it does pay to play it down a bit. I agree with you.
Yep. Look, it was a fantastic win. Let's leave that now. We've had our fun with that. It was a fantastic win by Adelaide. 15-6-96, winning by a point over Melbourne, 14-11-95. Melbourne's first loss for the season. Adelaide's second win against a top four side this season. Only Sydney and Adelaide have beaten two top four sides. From memory, I don't think Port have beaten a top 8 side yet.
They have not. Not to my knowledge.
So, there's only one team in town that are flat track bullies, and it's certainly not the Adelaide Crows.
No, I thought actually it was a pretty complete team performance thing. It was. If you go through the team, it's very hard to find somebody you say he let the team down.
Yep.
I was very pleased with it for that particular aspect.
Yep, and get ready to drink, because I'm going to say it, 100%, Macca, 100%. There wasn't a passenger. Everyone went when they had to go. Everyone put in 1,000%. There were no passengers. If there had been any sort of cast on selection on Thursday night, you would have seen me going apeshit crazy about David McKay being selected. And let's talk about selection just quickly. But I have to say, all due credit to David McKay, because that was just probably one of the best games I've seen him play.
No doubt about it, Fading. Could you say 100% again? Because I really enjoyed that first trick when you said it.
100%, Matt. Couldn't agree with me more.
I will have another sip in a minute. Actually, McKay, I thought, played a fantastic game. And I think, as you said, it was very close to the best he's ever played for the club. So
for a long time. Made some. He made a few errors, but making those errors, as many of the team did, trying to take the game on. It was very noticeable that we were trying to take the game on. We had clear intent, and a couple of times it came unstuck. A couple of times it came unstuck for DMAC. But by God, he made some clutch tackles. He provided a lot of run and carry. And when you see DMAC kicking goals on the left, then you know something special is about to happen, and it certainly bloody did, didn't it?
100%,
Mac.
I'll add me third now.
This is going to be a fun cast.
Look, just before we keep going with the selection, for those in the chat, there is a suggestion box channel in Discord now, and I think previously you might not have been able to put emojis on. That was my stupid fault. I've fixed that now. So if you've got a suggestion that you want to give us for something you want to see, or something you want the Crowcast to do, or something you want us to stop, like Macca's 15 minutes of fame, drop it in the suggestion box. If you see a suggestion in there that you like or dislike, hit an emoji, thumbs up, thumbs down, and if there's enough impetus one way or the other, then I'll look at making the change. The reason why I bring that up, Macca and Nikki, is because there is a suggestion that we need to have a pub day for an away game one day during the year, and I think that's a bloody good idea personally. And if we do end up doing that, and if you want to see that, certainly throw your support behind that on the suggestion box channel. We will be having the 100% drinking game, because why wouldn't you? Anyway, let's get back to selection. We were far better balanced this week, weren't we? We brought in Murray, of course. We dropped Billy Frampton, so we went a little bit shorter, but a little bit more dynamic in the forward line. Andrew McPherson went back to the twos, probably struggling with form at the moment. Will Hammer was probably the unlucky one, and he had a great game in the SANFL. I don't know whether you guys watched the twos. He had 30 plus touches, and it was probably our best in the twos. So he'll be back in the team, and he obviously took it on the chin. At the time, I was ropeable that he was dropped for DMAC, but to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure whether we would have got the same output or value from Will, no disrespect to him, that we ended up getting from DMAC. So you could say that every selection was justified. The team looked better balanced. Chase Jones is coming along on that half-back line. And our forward line, all of a sudden, and I'll talk about my favourite topic in a minute, but our forward line looked a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more open without the big tools in there.
Yep, actually, you're 100% on that, Feen, and I think the forward line... I think, and I will in a minute. But I thought the forward line structure, as you said, was one of the real keys why we won the game, because you've always said we can't play Fogarty and Walk in the same team up forward, and I've agreed with you. But what we've seen with Philthorpe up there, we can. It's those other big bloody lugs like.
But you know why that is?
And Frampton.
Yeah, you know why that is, Mac?
Well, because they move around differently. I don't know.
Because Riley can command that goal square.
Oh,
so
yeah, sorry.
We don't have to sit. We've been playing our tools higher. Himmelberg and Frampton have both been playing up the ground. But when Riley's playing forward, he's playing deep forward. He's playing that 30-metre arc, and we're pushing Fogarty and Tex up the ground, and it's a far better structure because both Tex and Fog offer some strength and they offer good foot skills. Tex in particular is great at making the play, and it just looks better. Again, I'm an Elliott fan, as you know, but gee, he was disappointing in the twos. I saw him drop some marks again, and you kind of wonder whether it's ever going to happen for him.
Yeah, just back on Riley Thilthorpe. I saw a tweet after the game saying that Riley Thilthorpe is the best player that's walked through the Crows' front door since Andrew McLeod, and I reckon he might just prove to be that player.
Nick, what's your thought on that?
I think that's bloody close.
Yep, I agree. He is a dead set standout.
He was actually causing Gawn problems in the ruck.
Well, exactly,
and that's why
right.
Gawn got so shitty in that last
and getting the clearance.
I was going to mention that he actually, I reckon, in his ruck contest with Gawn, and the selection obviously proved that they had confidence in Riley, in his fourth game or whatever, to chop out in the ruck. He broke even with Gawn, and he won 2 clearances, I think, in that. I think it was in the third quarter, and last quarter. Sorry,
last quarter.
And he did not look out of place at all against Maxi Gawn. He certainly looked more competitive in terms of out-and-out ruck work than Riley O'Brien did. I don't want to see them get the temptation of running him as a ruckman, but he's certainly a handy chop out, isn't he?
Oh, he's got talent to burn.
Yeah,
absolute talent to burn.
Anyway, let's see. You drag me into individuals. Bloody hell.
I love it how he blames us, Macca, when he was the one who started it.
Absolutely.
Exactly right. I kept quiet.
Thanks for picking that up, Nick. You might just have to go on mute for a little while. Don't forget, if you're in Discord and in the audience there, stick your hand up at any stage. It's open slather tonight, so don't be shy. If you've got something to say or you just want to gloat like the rest of us, stick your hand up and we'll get you on. Selection I thought was a win for the Crows, and it's probably the first selection win week we've had for... probably since the Hawthorn game.
Yeah, and for me, it's where a lot of people, you have a go about the McKay, but I look at the line in all those areas and how many mature players do we have as opposed to our young kids.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the balance that we're going for, and particularly in the defence, and as Jadamai just preempted me in the chat, Murray. Actually having Murray play deep, which meant Duday could play up high, which meant Butts was literally playing centre half forward.
Exactly.
And those players are actually very good, and I really love Chase Jones's delivery out of defence.
The other thing about Murray,
as well.
The other thing about Murray was that Goodwin was trying to use Gawn at various stages to either clog up our forward line or become an attacking option, and Murray went with Gawn in that last quarter when Gawn went back to keep behind the play, and obviously Murray was what's the word?
He went with him, and he beat him.
He laid that bloody tackle that was sensational.
Oh, the brilliant tackle!
Probably,
and he outmarked him.
Yeah, so PJ Crows is a massive Murray fan, aren't you, PJ? Game day chat was certainly interesting in that regard, but he certainly proves his worth, and he's a bit of a swingman, Murray. He can pinch it up forward and unbalance an opposition. And again, when we've got the structure that we had on the weekend with Walker and Fogarty and Thilthorpe, the ability to maybe chuck Murray down there when Riley goes in for a ruck chop out, Thilthorpe that is, or just to unbalance them by having an extra tool, or cover the situation like Goodwin tried to instigate on the weekend, where he wanted to stick Gawn behind the ball. He made Gawn accountable and kind of nullified him. So he's a very handy player and worth persevering with, I believe.
He's that lovely, rugged country type boy who's not frightened of anything, and he loves the physical clashes, and he's only played a couple of games, but he doesn't know that he's only played a couple of games. He has a red hot crack, and I think he'll be very good for us long term.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and he made a couple of little blues and everything else, but as Dunstall actually pointed out, he's 5 games into his career, and he beat McDonald.
Yeah.
Who's at top of his form at the moment in his career.
Yeah, destroyed McDonald actually. McDonald gave them basically nothing. So it was fantastic by Murray, and well deserved. Now let's get on to some head-to-head, shall we? If I can work out my little thingy here. Maybe. Oh, God, I'm hopeless. I'm bloody hopeless.
I'd agree, Nicky, will be in the shit.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say a thing.
Oh, get stuffed, a lot of you. Look, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people in the audience. Come on, don't be shy. Put your hand up. Razor, I saw your hand up before. Get on here, mate. We'd love to have your interaction. It's that sort of a rap show this week because we're all up and about. So let's get some atmosphere going. Get your hands up and get on board. So anyway, head-to-head, disposals 370 to Adelaide 333. Kicks 207 apiece. Handballs 163 to 126. That was obvious that was our modus operandi. We were cutting through the middle as much as possible. Goodwin tried to chop that out after half time, but it was quite noticeable that we were trying to run the ball through. Inside 50s, 47 to us, 54 to Melbourne. Disposal efficiency 75 to 71. The skills, I thought, for the game. In fact, the game itself was a high standard. I really enjoyed watching it, to be honest with you.
Oh, well, it was so absorbing, wasn't it? Because it was, as you said, it was a high standard, and it was, two teams giving 100%. And
that's a drink up.
Well, I think that was the result of a drink up, actually. My glass is getting empty too. But. No, what I was going to say is that the physicality of the game is very, very high, and there's no players that scribbed it at all. Didn't scrib it one little bit.
No.
And I just love the way that some of our smaller players, I'm not allowed to mention names like McHenry, so I won't say it. You know, the physicality that little bloke brings into it, it rubs off on the players around him.
Yeah, 100%, Mac.
Sloney got him a good one though.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that was that. I don't. That was the elbow from the Melbourne player. It wasn't.
I thought it was Sloane's elbow.
No, it was the Melbourne player's elbow. Efficiency inside 50. Both teams pretty good. We had 24 shots from 47 inside 50s. Melbourne had 30 from 54. Now,
no, didn't in the last we had like less inside 50s than them? I think
we did. Yeah, correct, Nicky.
Yeah, we did.
But we were more efficient.
Yeah. And I didn't do my forward 50 analysis this week because we're going to be.
It was good.
We're going to be a little bit lighter on in terms of our stats tonight because we're going to kick off a pre-game show that's going to incorporate some of that next week. But everyone watching would have seen the difference in the way that we were transitioning the ball. That was the big standout for me. And the impetus for that was obviously the threat of Lever down back and the way in which they rebound off half back and their height dominance down back. We certainly came in with a plan. But I think that's a plan that we should stick with irrespective because we got the ball. Our inside 50s were far deeper. We were able to spread the forward 50 because we were using the width of the ground, and we're also moving the ball quickly, which was not allowing Melbourne to get set behind the ball. So it makes a hell of a difference when you actually move the ball with some aggression and some creativity because you just get the defenders off guard. And once the defender's one-on-one in the AFL, as long as the disposal's good, very hard to stop.
And what we did with Lever was when Fogg was off getting a rest, we always made sure that his matchup was Berry. So at one stage when they were doing the setup for the centre bounce and he'd gone to row, and Tex is just like, no, you two swap. Immediately swap. You need to be on him. So we made sure that because even though Rowie and Berry have the same number of games, Berry's better overhead and that stronger body.
Yeah, Berry's very good. Flash Crow just putting up in the chat there in case people missed it. Tex has been offered a $2,000 fine for his dangerous tackle on Oliver. I reckon the players should fine Tex another $2,000 because Oliver had only had about 8 posies up until then, and then he absolutely went freaking crazy after he got driven into the ground. I think he had 3 possessions in the next minute and ended up with however many 37 posies or something and 27 contested and almost won the game off his own boot. So bloody Tex, if he hadn't knocked some sense into Oliver, then maybe it wouldn't have been so difficult.
Yeah, I think it was more the way the game was played, Fee, because in the first half of the game, we were actually at all costs trying to come through the middle and most of the times getting through there, which is why we were looking so dangerous when we went forward. Yeah. They readjusted their side and in the second half to block that middle, and they were making us go a long way around the edges, which is one of the reasons why the scoring slowed down a little bit. But to our credit, our boys adjusted to that as well. So
we didn't bomb, did we?
So we stopped the bombing and we held as long as we could. And then when we did kick it, we kicked it to where we had players and at least we had a good chance of either getting it or getting the ball out of bounds. So I thought that we played a pretty intelligent game, and I think we've got a very good set of coaches driving us at the moment.
Yeah. Well,
and that you contrast that with what our defence did to their forward line, because the bulk of their actual marks or everything else were often right out by the boundary line. We were forcing them out wide. We weren't giving them the middle, and it was great.
They didn't get a lot out of
there was great teamwork.
The other thing, Mac, sorry, Nick, go on.
I was just going to say, I mean, one of the particular highlights to me was that beautiful run of play we had through the middle from out of defence. And, of course, all our forwards were up too high. So when Fogg got the ball in the centre square, four Melbourne defenders, including May, Lever, etc., legged it almost towards the goal line. And they went deep. So Tilthorpe's run in and then done that beautiful little double back in. And of course, they're all way behind him, and they can't get to it. And it was a perfect kick from Fogg. It had to be a set play that we've practiced, something like that, for that fast ball movement, but all our forwards are out of position. It was great coaching, and I'm really appreciating what Rahili is bringing to our forward line.
It's starting to work. The other thing with the ball movement, Mac, that you touched on when Goody clogged up the corridor and we had to start working our way around the edges. By maintaining possession and being concerted with our possession, it allowed our structure up forward to be such that when the ball did inevitably get put in high, we had enough players at the crumb. And it's the first time for a while that I've noticed that we've actually been able to force stoppage or force secondary forward 50 entries from those types of kicks in, because it wasn't run, booted in high and there's no one there to crumb. It was chip, try to spread the defence, put it to someone's advantage, but in doing so in a more considered fashion. We had blokes like Jimmy Rowe at the bottom of a pack. Sam Berry, Benny Keys and Rory Sloane were able to push forward in those circumstances. So it was a much more sustainable method than it has been in the last few weeks.
Yep. And that's full credit to both the players and the coaches for adjusting in mid-game to do it that way, Fane.
Yep. 1,000%, Macca. Now, here's an interesting stat. The free kicks were 24 all.
That's 10 drinks, mate.
It is 10 drinks, mate.
It doesn't. It does not matter about the number. It numbers about the correct calls and those that were missed.
Well, I mean, I was going to make the observation that at one stage I think it was 21-10.
It was.
It was 21-10. How does it get to 24 all, for God's sakes? That's crazy.
Because I do believe they actually, the Umpires Observer at half-time actually showed them those 2 throws from Oliver and said, how did you miss those? And a few others, I think. He had 4 throws for the night, which I was very annoyed that the AFL, when they put up their, his great game and all his stats, I was tempted to actually tweet at them going, you missed his 4 throws. One of them did result in a goal.
You can't, no, that wasn't a throw. That wasn't a throw.
Was.
No, it wasn't. It actually wasn't. It was a inside-out handball that was very Hollywood, but he definitely got his fist on.
They pay those as throws.
Not anymore, Nick. Look, as long as you get your... I think there was a ruling came out a couple of weeks ago. Your platform hand can be moving as long as your fist makes contact with the ball in the process of disposal, then it's deemed a handball.
Yeah, even if it's not really the one that's propelling it. So
exactly.
You can have the bottom hand doing all the propelling as long as the top one catches up with it.
Yeah, I hate it, but that's how it is.
It's a throw. It is actually a throw, but in terms of if you're being technical, but as far as the AFL is concerned, that's a handball.
That's right. But let's just spend a moment, because Clayton Oliver, what sort of a game did he have? I mean, because of Oliver, there's actually not as much talk about Petrarca. I actually thought Petrarca's game was immense as well, but Oliver was just off the charts.
His second half was one of the best halves of mids played, because
that was Ben Cousins' preliminary final, that second half by Oliver. It's unbelievable.
Dominant, absolutely. Yeah, he was so dominant, and I mean he kicked 3 goals as well. So, and he's not normally a goal kicker. He was just off the chart, and as you said, Tex must have woken him up, because he really played probably the best. And I am a fan of his, but of Oliver's.
Brian got him first.
But I think that's the best I've seen him play ever. And somebody said he needs a haircut. No, not when you can play as well as that.
You can wear your hair however you like.
You can have it how you like. Even orange hair like him.
That's right.
It's just I just really don't like him, because I remember what an absolute little thug he has been. Oh no, he was. When he started out, he was an absolute little thug.
Come on, Nick.
Come
on, Nicky.
He was, and I have a long memory for that. But bastard played a bloody good game.
He's tough.
Yeah.
He goes for the ball.
no, Macca, he was going for players with his fist early on in his career.
We don't need to talk about early on in his career because we're talking about
So
this week.
I have a memory. That sits in my memory for a little bit, but I will contend that was bloody annoying, amazing game from him, and
he was outstanding.
I just had two divorces
I will rate
flashing through my
Petrarca.
memory.
I will rate Petrarca over him because Petrarca,
Come on.
because he's a nice young man. That
Oh my
one.
God, Nikki.
What?
I don't know what to say to that. Anyway, do you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say let's move on. So hit-outs, Gawn destroyed Riley O'Brien in the ruck contest, 49-27. And at times it was quite pivotal. There were periods of the game where their work in clearance just about threatened to break us wide open. You know, there are times there were times when our matchups in the middle weren't quite right, I didn't think, and you know, I don't know what we did. Benny Keys was on Oliver for the first half and kept him reasonably quiet, but we seemed to rotate players off Oliver in the second half, and I guess the coaches would argue that we got a lot of value out of Ben Keys as well, but gee whiz, it was a dangerous tactic.
I thought Ben Keys had a very good game himself, but Oliver, he did have the advantage of a ruck hitting to him rather than Ben Keys trying to prevent it going to him. So I thought Ben was very good overall.
Yeah. So clearances 23-44, 13-18 around in the centre. Bloody hell, Macca, we need to call an ambulance.
Just about nearly then. No, that's what happens
Jesus.
so often.
Stoppage clearances 10-26, if you don't mind. They killed us around stoppage, and that's really where Gawn was showing his. Although I must admit, as much as we're blessed to have Riley as a chop-out ruck, having Jackson as a chop-out ruck isn't a bad thing either. That lad's got some talent as well.
No argument there, Fiend.
No, couldn't agree with me more. Possession count, contested possessions 142-153. We squared that up as the match went on. Uncontested possessions 220 to 175. And that's indicative of how we were trying to play. And I did think that there were times where we actually forced Melbourne to go up and down the line too. So I felt like our structures held up reasonably well. And that shows with the 78-70 turnovers. And like you mentioned, having Murray in the team just allowed Duday to be a little bit more effective. But the pressure on the ball carrier from blokes like McHenry and Berry and Co. and Benny Keys was just immense. You can see that the game was played all over the ground. I haven't seen a heat map that evenly spread for quite some time. You know, and generally you'll have one team sort of playing off the half-back line and one team a little bit more dominant through the middle, but this was a game played all over the ground.
It was, wasn't it? And there were individual tussles all over the ground. And it was good to see, though, when the ball was in our forward line, the fight that our little players put up. You singled out McHenry then, not me. But I will say this, though, I never thought that I'd end up saying what a bloody good little player he is. But, gee, he's leading the way up there, isn't he?
He certainly is. He's getting the most out of himself, Ned, and you've got to admire the kid for that. I mean, he's obviously going to have his challenges, and just all credit to him for actually getting on a list in the first instance, and to be able to grow his game to the extent now where he is probably a bit feared on transition by opposition teams, because, I mean, 2 rundown tackles in the first quarter were just fantastic, and his heat and pressure on the ball was good, but he's also got an offensive side to his game too. He's very good by foot, and he runs to space very well, provides options very well. He's turning into a very handy young player.
And also it shows that if he applies his energy to getting the ball and also tackling the opposition when they've got it, rather than just being a needling little turd just upsetting everybody, he makes a great contribution to the team.
Yeah, well, and I think that's confidence, Macca. I think, he's obviously was trying to assert himself early on in his career, and, make up for maybe some fitness shortcomings or just newness to the game. And, being a little fella, he probably gets thrown around a little bit as well, and it's probably something that he's had to adapt to over the course of his career anyway. But as he's grown in stature and as he's become part of the team, obviously the coaches have confidence in him, bringing him straight back in. He's really developing into a good all-round player. So you can see time and possession for the match was even, as you'd expect, 40 to 41%. Marks 88 to 74, which is interesting considering kicks were even. It shows that our kick to handball ratio, even though we handballed the ball more, the way we were using the ball by foot was more the chip style, and Melbourne were kicking a little bit longer and trying to rely on their big guys to take marks. That's a very interesting stat. Marks inside 58 to 11, contested marks 17 to 18, intercepts in our favour 78 to 71.
And didn't we, at one stage, we scored like 43 of our points from intercepts?
Yeah, which is unusual for this season. We've been a bit of a team that'll want to reset at stoppage and try to get score from stoppage. And again, that's got to come down to having Nick Murray in the team, not only from Nick's input, but also what it means to that structure of that setup of that back six. Yeah,
I think it did, because it meant Duday was loose, or he could get loose because he was playing up that higher.
Yeah.
Because it also meant that we moved Butts up to centre half forward.
Yeah.
And so we had those two talls across that centre half forward, centre half back, that line, which and occasionally, he could go a bit deeper depending on who was back there. So it gave us that little bit of flexibility in the back line. It made us, or it allowed us to man up how we wanted to man up on them and not be dictated to so much. There was only the occasional times when we had some changes going on and Gawn went down there, caused some trouble early, and then we kind of rectified that.
Yeah, that was poor communication. I know the one you're talking about, Nick, where O'Brien basically went off for a spell, Gawn just floated forward and took a mark. That was poor.
And kudos to him, because he recognised that. And he took that advantage.
Riley should have recognised the threat. That had to happen better than it did. It didn't happen again during the course of the match that I could see, so it must have just been a breakdown in communication.
Just digressing, Fiend, did you see Dodo on Channel 9 this morning?
No, mate, I was fast asleep.
No, he was on the Sport Channel. Channel 9 Sport Channel. And, he was sort of repeating what Nicky was saying to some degree. And the guy is actually a dead-set media personality. He had them in stitches and he had them wound around his little finger. He's definitely going to be a media man when he's finished. But he was saying that the fact that Murray back there just gave him the opportunity to zone off and take the marks, which he likes doing.
Yep.
And he really does come across so well. He's very good for the club, and he's very good for himself. I think he's got a future in the game.
Well, it makes you wonder. It's going to be interesting again what selection does this week, because it makes you wonder what they were trying to do by nullifying Durday's output by making him be accountable to a player, to a key position. I'd be surprised if we reverted back to that, but they stuck with it for a couple of weeks. So I don't know. I would love to have known what the thoughts were behind that.
The other thing is, he was interviewed at halftime as he was going off the ground, and I had to love he used a Walshyism, because he talked about the crowd and he called us elite. As soon as he said it, I'm like, well, she's still there in their minds, which was quite amusing. But you're spot on. He speaks so well for such a young man.
Yes.
Doesn't he ever?
He really does.
Totally confident. He could be just chatting to you and I. He's just that relaxed about it all.
Yeah. So, look, head-to-head, I mean, there's not a lot to take out of that, except probably it underscores what I think everyone could see watching the game, was that our method was completely different, and our defence was better structured, and our forwards benefited from the reconfiguration and also the ball movement. I think that really sums it up. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and which is a very interesting comparison. If you do look at our game versus Collingwood, for example, that our coaching adjusted our game style to the players that they chose, and then when they had to change that, they changed that again so that it still worked when we were denied the middle. And you look at Collingwood, who had so much of the ball and had there's no discernible game style there at all. It just goes to show how important it is for players to know that they have a role and what the role is.
Yeah. Now, Macca and Nikki, 10 people in the audience. 10, and
but
not
haven't
one hand.
any of them put their hands up yet?
Not one hand in the air. And you know the feedback of, oh, we love the interaction, we love the fact that you can get on now, blah 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 blah. Yeah, they're all weak as piss.
Surely there's a wise head amongst you 10.
Well, I can see a few wise heads there, and I can see a few people that have contributed before. So they're probably waiting to see if someone else wants to have a go, which is fair enough. Tommy Gunn's there. He usually writes short novels in Crow's chat, so I'd love to hear what he's got to say in person. But anyway, no pressure. But if anyone does want to come on, just stick up your hand and we'll gladly have you on. Now, how about we have a look at some individuals? See if I can get this bit right.
And I take it we're not going to have a section on the 3 West players because there were none.
No, I didn't have any.
Doesn't stop me from having a bloody segment on it, Nick. I can have a segment
and
on
we'll
it if I want.
Well, it's done. Move on.
I think we can probably all agree that Mr. Keys was our best. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Drink up.
I will. But there's got another glass.
He's turning into a fantastic asset for our club. A lot of people say that he lacks polish, and therefore when we get more silk in the midfield, he'll just be a workhorse, or he might even drop out of the team. I'm telling you right now, you can't buy the aggression and the persistence and the playing for the jumper that Ben Keys gives you. You just can't buy it. You couldn't go to the draft and hope to pinpoint someone that was going to give you the effort that Ben Keys gives you every week.
Yeah, nice summary, Fang. You don't get too many players that give as much as that.
No, 34 disposals, 17 kicks, 17 handballs, 3 marks, 7 tackles, kicked 2 goals, which is excellent because that's been a bit of a struggle for him in the past.
And that first goal, his immediate reaction was to look at the crowd and point at the ground. This is our house.
Well, is that what he was thinking, Nick? Could you read his mind?
It was. Well, that's a similar. You get that kind of where they do that, they celebrate, they point down. This is our place. Yeah. You know,
he might have been pointing at a beetle on the ground or something.
Yeah,
no, he was pointing at the ground.
Might have been saying I stubbed my toe on the way through. Look, 13 disposals.
But to me, in the context of the game and when that happened and the way we were fighting, it just kind of actually gave me confidence of, hang on, if we can hang on, we could cause them an awful lot of problems, and we caused them a major problem in the end.
13 disposals in the first quarter, 7 and 6, 1 mark, 1 tackle. In the second quarter, backed it up with another 5 and 3 with a goal. We've got in the third quarter, he also had 8, 3 and 5, and another goal, and 5 in the last, but did a lot of defensive work. We've got a lovely little poor old weepy bloke in the YouTube chat there. I'll let you guys sort him out. I don't feel like kicking him out just yet. He can suffer So the thing about Ben's game too was not only his disposals but also his disposal of... Why isn't that working now? I don't know. There we go. That's interesting. Yeah, his clearance work there. Where are we with... Far too many screens. Here we go. So it's 11 contested possessions, 21 uncontested possessions. So that's probably indicative of the fact that he's just been sort of thought of as an inside ball getter. But if you've noticed over the last couple of weeks, Nicky and Macca, he's been getting far more outside ball.
Yeah.
Yep. He's certainly trying to be the complete player. No doubt about it.
Well, but it's also, I think, a change. That's a coaching direction as well, Mac. Has to be.
Yeah, well,
It's felt like that with Sloane being back.
It has to be.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they would like that because that makes a player into a complete player. So there's no doubt about that. But I was trying to link that back to Nicky's comment about Sloane. What do you mean by that, Nicky?
Well, because Sloane's come back into the midfield, that he's gone back to doing that more inside work. And so that's given Keys that option to do more of the outside. He'll still do some of that inside work, but I think that's, to me, what's kind of happened and why we've seen that change.
Yeah, well, I didn't think Sloane did a lot, and well, he did late. He did, but for most of the game, I thought Sloane struggled a bit to get involved in the game.
Yeah, the thing about Sloane is that what impressed me about him is even though he did have a down game, he basically wheeled us over the line in that last quarter.
Yeah,
he was immense in the last quarter.
Yeah, there was a last quarter where he really came good. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that shows someone that's still engaged. People that think that he's on the way out or whatever. That's all well and good, but he really did some things in that last quarter that were conducive to us getting over the line. Fantastic. Anyway, we're talking about Benny Keys, and I've got to stop getting distracted. Score involvement's 8, which is excellent from your midfielder. 3 marks, one contested. No turnovers and 418 metres gained. So he is starting to become a bit of a weapon on the outside. People say he lacks polish, but when you've got an inside-out player that can get 7 tackles and 8 score involvements and kick 2 goals himself, what more do you want from your midfielder?
I'll take it every time.
100%.
Easily out. Thank you. He's easily our number 1 player. Best on ground.
Yeah.
For us.
Who do we want to have a look at? Let's have a look at Seedsman.
I'd like to have a look at Smithers as well.
Yeah, we'll have a look at Smithers as well. Seed also had an excellent game. 35 touches, 22 kicks, 13 handballs, 8 marks, 4 tackles and a goal. We still saw a little bit of the good seed, bad seed, in my opinion.
Yes.
And he is very much a straight line player. He struggles when he's got to look laterally, I guess you'd say. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that is what his problem is that he's brilliant when he's allowed to have a straight line with just a little dodge around, but if it's to be complete a 90-degree lateral move like a lot of players can do, so he can't do that. And that's when you see the bad seed, because then he does the panic handball or something like that. But overall, I think he would have gained us a lot of ground overall. It must have been, we would have got about 600 metres, I suppose. That'd be fair.
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen the figures, but I thought he is the one player in the side that if you can get him running in a straight line, he is a beautiful long kick, and lots of times they can be very effective as well.
Yeah. Well, he had 22 kicks, 13 handballs, 11 contested possessions, 24 uncontested, as you'd expect. Turned it over 5 times, which isn't too bad out of 22 kicks under the sort of pressure that was there. 7 score involvements, which is what you want from your delivery guy from half back. 657 metres again. Him and Smithers are 1 and 2 in the comp in that stat. We're certainly getting... Nick talks about showing weapons. He really does show his weapon when he can get the ball on the outside. He just needs to be able to settle when he's got options, and just make sure. Like the case in point was that one where he just blindly kicked it out onto the wing coming off of half back, and he had a handball option laterally to his left, but instead he just kicked it to grass, and there was no one within 20 metres from us. Yep. And that's very indicative of the two sides of Seedsman. So he's a little bit tunnel visioned in that regard, but with a guy like that, I think you take the good with the bad, and when he's in form, his good is very valuable. When he's out of form, that's when those errors start to become problematic.
Yeah, I rated him number 2 overall. I thought his game was pretty good. Given the fact that in a game with the pressure that was on right throughout that game, you're always going to get a mistake here and there. So overall, number 2 for me.
Yep. Right, let's have a look at Lairdy, because I thought it was another solid game and some high stats from our midfielders. Rory had 35 touches, 14 kicks, 21 handballs, so not too bad there in terms of kick to handball ratio. 3 marks, 7 tackles. You can see there from his Telstra tracker, very much through the middle of the ground, didn't get behind the ball too much this week. Whereas last week and in the last previous weeks, I've noted our midfielders getting a little bit more behind the ball. And so this is this subtle change in structure, because not only did we bring Murray in, but having Jones and DMAC/Hamill on that half back line, it gives us running options coming out of that defensive 50, and it means that our midfielders don't have to try and do everything by running back and providing that option. They can actually provide the next option. And I felt we were more dynamic coming out of our back half this week.
We were, and I thought that Chase Jones added to that with some nice movements out of the back lines.
Yes, and we'll get to Chase momentarily. But we do have 1990 sticking his hand up there, as he always does. He's a stalwart of the Sunday rep shows, so let's get him on, shall we?
He talks good stuff.
Yeah, he makes you look a bit silly, Macca, to be honest.
Well, that's not too hard.
How are we doing, Phoenix, Macca?
G'day, mate. How you doing?
Welcome aboard, mate.
Not too bad. Haven't quite got the voice of Scorpus, but I'll try my best.
That's all. That's all. He uses about 10 plugins to get his voice to sound like that.
Yeah, he's using filters, obviously.
Yep.
Went across for the game. Flew over yesterday morning and then flew back to Melbourne this evening. So had a great weekend with the boys, and just need to sit down during the week to watch the replay and enjoy it.
Yeah, I've watched it twice since once live and twice on replay 1990, and it hasn't gotten old yet. Has not gotten old.
It will for a while.
My mate said the umpire looks twice as bad on the replay as it did live.
It wasn't good. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Good.
That's
Well,
right.
tell us, 1990, what was the main thing that you really liked about the game?
I guess just generally the quality of our skills and the way we moved the ball and the way we defended. It was just the overall game. Like Melbourne's a top flight team at the moment, and to be able to match them for basically 4 quarters, I think was fantastic because, for 5 weeks we've been close. We've had a couple of games which we probably should have won, in particular the Hawthorn game. But then there's been others where we've gone missing for a quarter, or we've gone an entire half and just fallen away. But we could have quite easily fallen away at many stages during the game on the weekend, and particularly I think the first quarter when they got a couple of goals, I was sort of getting a bit nervous, thinking we weren't going to be able to match them. And then there's other parts of the game where they got a couple of goals in front, and again I thought, there's no harm. Melbourne's a good side. We might fall away, but we didn't. We stuck at it, and credit to them.
Yeah, and I noticed that I think it might have been, I'm not sure whether it was the Crows chat on Discord or whether it was Big Footy 1990, but you pretty much threw up your hands when D-Mac was selected, knowing that you were coming over. Turned out all right. Turned out all right, mate.
I was looking at the sample scores in the in the lead up to the game, going Hamill, McPherson, Dominic. Like, what the bloody hell are we doing? Yeah. We got these 2 gun halfbacks, but they proved me wrong. Proved me I know nothing. But no, D-Mac was great. I would never have thought he'd be able to kick a goal in his left from 45 metres out. That's just not something I would think that would ever happen, but it did. And no, he was good. He made a couple of errors, but overall, that's one of the best games he's played in a long time.
Yeah. And before you go, mate, give us your best 3.
Probably Ben Keys, best for us. I'd probably have Seidman in the second. I think he just ran all day.
Yeah, he did. Jake Lever third.
Good drive. Oh God, I hate Jake.
Did you enjoy booing him as much as the rest of us did?
Oh, we all did. We haven't had much of a chance to do it since he moved over, have we?
We need to start. We need to start a GoFundMe for Darcy Fogarty. I noticed that he got a $2,000 fine as well for that little bloody love tap on the back of Lever's shoulder there. That Lever nearly went down like he was bloody shot. For goodness sakes, we should raise it $2,000.
No, because I don't think Lever actually knows what body contact is.
Oh my God.
He
avoids it.
He loves to jump in third, but he's not much of a one-on-one.
No.
Yep.
For the third best, I don't know actually. I thought
I thought Smithers had a great game, even though he didn't have, obviously he wouldn't have the meters gamed, everything else. I thought what he was doing defensively, I had him up there as one of my top players.
I had Laird in my 3rd spot because he was mauling away.
Yeah.
He was there getting the real hard balls.
1990. See what I have to deal with. See what I have to deal with. 1990. They ask you who your 3rd is, and then
he couldn't give an answer, so we gave him some ideas.
You just jump in, for God's sake. Let the man speak.
I'll be my own man, and I'll say Tex.
There you go.
Crucial goals when we needed them. Stood up and was immense, particularly that last 5 minutes. And if we didn't have Tex, we probably don't win.
Yes, GK on the YouTube chat. He's my man, Geordie Butts. I would have him in there. I agree with you. 1990. Tex was crucial, and he was also good up the ground this week as well. But Geordie Butts is playing like a 150 game veteran down the back
sure. there. I think last season I was looking at Jordan in the SNFL thinking he's a good player, just not quite convinced he would take that next step to be an AFL key defender.
Yeah.
I think my main concerns were probably his strength in the contest and his ability to read the play, but since he's played this year, strength hasn't been a problem. He's clearly been in the gym all off season and all.
Yep.
He's used COVID to his benefit to get his body to where it needs to be, which I think has helped with his reading of the play because he's clearly playing confidently.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 1990, thanks for coming on board again this week. You've opened the floodgates. I think One Pubs, you had your hand up there, mate, at some stage, so stick it up
let's
again.
Have another one on.
let's get a new voice on here while we're up and about. Thanks, mate.
Good night, guys.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah, see you, mate. See you, mate.
See ya.
While we're waiting for One Pubs to stick his hand up again, let's just have a quick look at Brodie Smith. 22 disposals, 15 kicks, 7 handballs, 4 marks, 4 tackles. Very much just playing behind the ball a little bit off half back. 82% disposal efficiency from Smithers, which is great. Only turned it over 4 times in the end. I want to go and have a look. 570 metres gained, if you don't mind, from Mr. Smithers. So, again, close on 1,200 metres gained between Seedsman and Smith. And when you've got 2 blokes who can kick the ball like they can in terms of gaining territory, if you use them appropriately, which I feel like we're starting to do now, they are weapons. Isaac Smith was that weapon for Hawthorn, and Ricky Henderson even to a lesser degree during that era. You've got to allow blokes to show why they're selected. And Smith as well. Smith is a little bit harder at the contest. I thought he did well in tight, laid a couple of good tackles too. So he's probably got a better defensive aspect to his game than Seed, but he played very well on the transition as well, I thought.
It's a couple of times he knew where Melbourne were going to go, and we kind of set them up to get that turnover or to stop their run, because that's where they're so and such a great team to watch and admire this year. And that's what really impressed me with his game on the weekend, because I didn't see him get as much damaging kind of forward kicks, although he did do some. To me, it was his defensive pressure and helping to lead that back line that just impressed me in the game.
Yeah. Tommy, take it easy with your throat, mate. We'll have you on another time. And thanks to those guys, Scott Mack, Trevi 30, Ed from Ost. And someone else there that I just lost on the chat there, for subscribing on YouTube. Make sure you spread the word. And Tommy, if you don't want to come on this week, we'll look forward to you next week. Now, come on, One Pubs. I saw your bloody hand up. Get amongst it. Anyway, who else do we want to have a look at? Let's have a look at D-Mac, shall we? Bloke doesn't get enough love. David McKay, 21 disposals, so very much on the high end of his usual disposal count. 12 kicks, 9 handballs, 6 marks, 5 tackles, kicked a goal, obviously. If you have a look at his tracker there, he whilst he was playing off half back, he was pushing up quite high as well on those flanks, and we'll have a look at his inside 50 count in a minute. 71% disposal efficiency, 18 contested possessions, as you'd expect. 7 intercept possessions, though, which is telling, and I do remember a couple. 6 score involvements as well. So, as we said before, probably the best game that D-Mac's played, I would say, for 5 years, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I can't even remember any particular ridiculous mistake that he made.
There was a couple of turnovers by foot, foot, and one where he got a bit stymied on the transition and handballed to nowhere. But and
there was the holding the ball that got him in the middle, but that was because we hadn't got back quick enough. And he actually didn't have anywhere to deliver it, really.
Yeah.
The only other option was to possibly try and get it further out into space, but they only had defenders back. And so it could have slingshot much quicker back. So I think in terms of a player decision of do you give up that free kick there where we get a chance to then man up, or do you try and kick it and hope that they don't slingshot?
Did you just get really loud, Nikki?
I hope not.
That's all good.
I didn't touch anything.
No, that's all right. No problems. Who else should we have a look at here? You could go through the whole... Let's have a look at Nettie. 15 disposals, 7 kicks, 8 handballs, 2 marks, 6 tackles, and that's obviously become an aspect of his game that is a real strength. Played forward and back, 8 contested possessions, only turned it over once. Where's the score involvement? 6 score involvements, which is what you want. And even 180 metres game. It's just his extra presence around the contest that just gives us a little bit more bite, doesn't it? 7 tackles overall, 6 tackles and 1 inside 50 tackle. So it's just that pressure that he puts on, and he's got fantastic endurance. He never stops.
I'm really liking McHenry, and if you'd asked me that question last year, did I think he'd ever be a footballer, I'd say not as long as my bum points to the ground. But this year he's doing all the things that he should be doing as a small man, and I am really starting to like him because when he gets the ball in hand, he tries very hard not to waste it. You can see him looking around, eyes darting everywhere, and he'll hold it till the right lead comes. And as he said, he'll go where angels fear to tread. He's just fearless.
Yeah,
so I last year I used to bag the living shit out of him, but this year I can't because I think the guy's playing very well.
Now, Vardy Magic, just for you, his disposal efficiency was 87%, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
Given the type of game that he's playing.
And talking about him, I think I'd also like to talk about Rowe, because to me, they've both seemed to have caught the speed of the game. And I think we saw that on the weekend, just with what they were able to bring.
It's an interesting discussion with Rowe, because hasn't he just come on a little bit since poor old Lockie Murphy went down?
I thought he was very good. Very good.
So I think because we've lost those 3 smalls, we've kind of only gone more to the 2 setup. So he's doing a lot more stuff up the ground. And his football brain is very good. And his ability to create some space now, because he knows the speed, because he was getting caught those first couple of games. And now he can just do that little sidestep because he's got the speed of the game. And those field passing he was doing, particularly that one to Fogarty, were just beautiful. And they're often at that angle. Yeah. They're breaking that. They're not going straight down the line. They're at the angle. They're cutting the defence.
Yep.
Nicky, you're making very good sense. Very good sense.
Well, that's...
Stop sounding surprised, Macca.
Both Rowe and McHenry are very good at that. And if you watch the replay and if you watch our last few games, to be honest with you, it's our senior players that tend to be the long bombers. Our younger players, Schoenberg, McHenry, Rowe, Berry, they've got their eyes lowered. They're looking for that diagonal. They're looking for the hit up. So it just makes you wonder, doesn't it, guys, whether that's just something that's become so ingrained in that era of our squad that they just chuck it on the boot, because invariably it's a senior player that'll bomb it long.
Very astute point, actually, because all the players you mentioned, all the youngsters, are ones that lift their eyes and try to find somebody.
Yep.
And the players, even players like Smith and Lairdy, etc., will bomb the ball quite a bit. And Seaman. So you're spot on there.
Thanks, mate.
That's 100%.
100%, mate. Drink up. And you can see with Jimmy's tracker, he was all over the ground too. He pushes up very hard, but was able to get some possessions in the forward 50 as well, which is obviously his bread and butter, including that beautiful little crumb off Maxi Gawn's deft little tap. He was the... he was on the right side of the contest, so he put himself in the right position, but that's what you want from your goal snake. He's starting to remind me of, and I think I might have mentioned this last week, Stevie Milne. He's Stevie Milne-like. He's unfashionable, and he'll go missing at times, but he's that nuggety goal sneak who just loves a goal and knows where they are.
Yeah, well, he certainly does. I don't know whether Stevie Milne's it's a big call because he's one of the best small players of all time.
I'm not saying he's as good. I'm saying it's a similar style.
Yep, fair enough.
Luke Brown. Let's have a look at Luke Brown, shall we? I didn't think it was a bad game from Mr. Brown. And certainly I feel like he's starting to regain the ability to impact the game a little bit more. He was very passive in the first month or so, but last week and this week he's become a little bit more aggressive again, and maybe that's because he's feeling a little bit more confident in his Achilles, or maybe it's because of the way we've structured up and having Chase back there. 18 disposals, 13 kicks, 5 handballs, 6 marks, 1 tackle, mostly in the back half. Pardon me. 78% disposal efficiency. Turned it over 6 times, which isn't great, but you wonder how much the kickouts factor into that stat. 480 metres gain, though, again, probably a kick-out stat. I've just noticed that he's become a little bit more willing to run off his man and get involved in the chain, if you know what I mean.
Well, I actually missed that at the start of who you were talking about there.
Luke Brown.
Luke Brown, we actually omitted to mention him last week because I thought he had a very good game last week as well.
Oh, we didn't talk about him. You must have been asleep, mate.
No, we didn't mention him. I bet you go look at the replay. We didn't mention him.
Oh.
And I'm glad you did mention him this week because I think he's right back to his very best now.
Oh, I wouldn't say he's right back to his very best, but he's certainly he's becoming more than just a stopper again. He went through a phase, didn't he, where he was just a stopper, and we weren't getting any offensive value out of him whatsoever. Yeah. So anyway, 1 or 2 more. Let's have a look. We'll have a look at Chase because it was a reasonably notable game from him. 12 disposals, 9 kicks and 3 handballs, 2 marks, 2 tackles. But it was probably the stuff that he did off the ball or, in the contest that was most noticeable. Was very strong in the tackle. I remember him laying a tackle on Oliver that was very strong when Oliver looked like he might just slip a tackle and move forward. Obviously playing a deep half back, spent most of his time in the back half. 75% disposal efficiency, which is good. The thing I like most about Chase's game is just that he's starting to look like he's clearly a confidence player, and he's just looking like he's starting to feel comfortable.
Well, I thought he certainly did not look out of place at all on the weekend, and I thought that he did enough to hold his place, in my opinion.
What I liked best was we used him as that outlet kick out along the half back line when we were doing kick outs, or once we got that the turnover, because his kicking is elite. He immediately looks for the more attacking kick, but if it's not there, he won't go with it, and he can go back and then hold it up and wait for things to go on. So it was his decision making that I was really impressed with, and just watching us transition out of the back lines, we were a lot smoother, a lot freer we have been in a while, and I think that came down to having him in the team.
Well, the interesting thing is that a few weeks back I mentioned that our last 4 first picks in the draft were all playing in the 2s. None of them were playing in our A-grade team and the AFL team. And interestingly enough, we've got 3 of them now playing in the AFL team, and also McHenry as well, who was the second pick in his particular year. And we've only just got the one playing in the back lines, Mackesy, who's got to improve to get it up to that particular level. So it's not looking as bad as it did at the beginning of the year in terms of our first round picks.
Well, no, and it just goes to show, Mac, that there are times where you just have to be patient. It's hard because people aren't, it's hard to be patient. But we just have to be patient with these kids.
Yeah. Yeah, they did develop at different rates, there's no doubt about that.
Well, and to be honest with you, I mean, I'd given up on Chase Jones. 1990 mentions Jordan Gallucci in the chat, and I agree. I think he was probably a bit unlucky to be delisted, although he hasn't been picked up. May get picked up in the mid-season draft, but all of a sudden with Chase Jones starting to come on, and whether you have DMAC or Hamill on the other flank, all of a sudden we've got a bit of pace at ground level in defence, and that's what you want coming out of your back half. If you want to transition the ball, you want to do it at pace, and you don't want to be relying on your midfield to be getting back deep, because then you lose that link up, and that's what's been causing us, bombing it in from the centre into our forward 50, because we've essentially run out of links in the chain. So I think Chase coming on is a real fillip for the side, makes us look far more balanced, and I'm pleased for the lad. I'm pleased that he's persevered, and credit to the coaches for working with him and not discarding him, and actually recognising his weapons and trying to make use of them.
Yeah, I totally second that, because it was obviously that he was struggling mentally as well, and so they worked out a position for him where he can see the ball coming to him, so he can start to build some confidence, and playing him at that level in the twos in that position, and then bringing him at the right time into a pretty tough game, and the kid performed accordingly. So he's obviously very much a confidence player, and again, kudos to our coaches, the way they've handled him.
Yep. Now, look, we're starting to wind down. Everyone in the chat and in the audience there, so if you have got something to say, you've probably got about another 5, maybe 10 minutes max to get on board. It would be great to hear from some of you. Here's Razor coming to the party straight away. Good on you, Ray. Hang on, let me get you in here. Click that button, Ray. How you going, mate?
Good, guys. How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good,
mate. You, Ray. Well done.
We're going very well.
Well, I was going to bag on about the officiating and just do a total rant, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. I imagine the AFL will come out and give Melbourne a priority pick for blowing all those calls.
You're starting to get the hang of the AFL, mate, and how it works.
And then they need to fine us.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's insane. I get it. It's probably what hurts the sport from growing, because they just can't get the officiating consistent.
Agreed.
And I imagine they're gonna do away with the deliberate and do a last touch. I believe Sandfield does that, right? And the ladies. So. Yeah,
the SNFL does it all over the ground. The AFLW does it, but only through the centre, which that's my preference. I don't like it in the forward line, which is what the SNFL have. I'd actually rather that become a throw-in to create scoring opportunities instead of an immediate turnover.
Yeah. No. So, but yeah, the officiating just drives me bonkers, and watching the media melt down over it is hilarious.
That was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's great because they don't call for any accountability on the officiating, and the AFL keeps telling us how elite the officiating is, which is obvious lie. So, but yeah.
And what time was it for you this week, Ray?
10:50, 11:50.
Oh, that's not. How do you come down?
At night.
Like you'd be wound up after a result like that. It'd take you 2 hours to get to sleep, wouldn't it?
Well, as soon as I got off work, I went to bed.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was it. Yeah, that was like at 6 p.m. And then I got up about 5 hours later so I can watch the game. But I was wound up. What an amazing win. I appreciated the fight that we're seeing out of the boys. There's a bit mongrel in them, and it was consistent over 4 quarters. That was great.
100%, Razor. And Scoot in the YouTube chat asking where you come from. Scoot, you're Nevada, aren't you, Ray?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Las Vegas? Like, are we all coming to your place
no.
for Vegas in the off season?
Oh no, that's a day's drive away. I'm up in northern Nevada, up by Lake Tahoe.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, mate, as always, lovely to have you on the chat. Always appreciate your support, and good on you. And thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. You guys have a great thing here. Nikki, Macca. Hope you feel better, Macca.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, matey. I'm half dying at the moment.
but he's still here with us, and we appreciate all of you guys for actually just listening to us.
Yeah, 100%.
All right,
Drink
guys.
up. See you, Race.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah. You need to make stickers, 100% stickers. Somebody brought that up in the Game Time chat, and I thought that was excellent. So.
Yeah, good idea.
All right.
We'll do that. All right, good on you, mate.
Guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks,
You too.
mate.
See ya.
See ya.
It's just that easy. We've got a couple of minutes left, so a few people in the audience there. We thank Razor and we thank 1990. He's a great supporter of the cast and has been for a long period of time. So it's fantastic that we can connect with fans across the sea. It'd be great to see American Crow, actually. I don't know what's happened to him. I know he moved to Ohio from... he moved to Arizona. He was in Cleveland. So whether that's messed up his time... Yeah, I don't know why he did that. But anyway, great to have Ray on. A couple of minutes left. Let's just wind up. Don't forget, if you're watching on demand and you haven't got around us yet on Discord, you can join our Discord server. The details are in the description on YouTube and also on our website and on our Twitter and everywhere else. So it's great fun, not only during the cast but also on game day. We had a pretty lively game day chat. As you would imagine, yesterday it was pretty full on and lots of opinions. But the good thing about the game day chat, Nikki and Mac on Discord, as opposed to some other game day destinations that won't be mentioned, is that it doesn't get out of hand. There's no real melting. People get fired up, and that's great because it's footy and that's what we want. But there's no idiots, so. We keep that in check pretty quick. So if you haven't got around it yet, get onto our Discord server now. If you are on our Discord server, as I said before, if you've got a suggestion, smash it in the suggestion box. If you want to support the Crowcast, there's details in the Support Crowcast channel of how you can do that. All our supporters are greatly appreciated. I'm a bit remiss because I should list them at the end of the cast, and I just haven't gotten around to making that slide, but I will do so. But just everyone who's supporting us through Patreon or just via PayPal, can't thank you enough. It really helps us keep this going. Nikki, Macca, I'm glad that you were able to survive, the pair of you. I'm glad that my ears held out because I'm starting to feel my throat close up now as well. That's probably the most I've spoken in a week and a half. But look, thanks to everyone who's joined us. Mac?
Yeah, that was one of the best wins for our club ever.
Mac, it sounds like you need to go back to bed. Are you going to be all right?
I just think I'll go away and pass away, I think.
Oh, don't do that.
No, don't do that.
No,
your letterbox will miss you.
There's a few more games left in the season. I don't want to be hunting around for a new bloody bloke until the off-season at least.
Nikki made an assumption that the letterbox is still there. It may not be there.
Good on you, mate. Good on you, Nikki, as well, for coming on. Thanks to everyone who's joined us. You guys are what makes the Crowcast what it is. We'll be back on Tuesday night with Peter and myself to have a little bit of a chat about Crows news, and also I'm sure Peter is champing at the bit because we missed out last week, champing at the bit to talk about Matty Roberts. So we'll be doing a bit of a showcase on young Matty Roberts. Until then, guys, thank you ever so much, and we will see you next week.
Night all.
Good night all.